Hello and welcome back to episode 40 of Tour Boy Radio. This week we're going to be talking about, can you guess? That's right, Halloween. So while I'm taking my mask off, guys, if you'd like to introduce yourself and say hello, Gaza.
Hi guys, great to be back again. Looking forward to this one, and the fact that that's actually no better. The fact that it's still October, I'm still on a no drink October, so I'm on a nice cup of Rosie Lee tea.
Andy.
Hello. I'm on Luke Lloyd. It's a classic. There you go.
Top man. Well, I've been looking forward to this one. I bought it on the weekend and it sounds good. It's a Brewdog layer cake, and after sweating inside that mask for what felt like eternity, but was only around about 30 seconds, I'm going to look forward to this one. It's a marshmallow and chocolate stout. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
That does sound good.
And it is. So, last time out, we were talking about our school days. Some people, that is an absolute horror story, but we've got a few horror stories to tell ourselves tonight. So we're going to start off. But before we start off, let's give somebody who deserves a massive shout out, shall we, Gaz? Darkwolf180 launches his channel on YouTube tomorrow night, which will be Halloween, the Night of the Wolf, very appropriately. Just tell us a little bit about that, dude. What are your opinions on that and your thoughts?
I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of conjecture, and if you read some of the stuff that's been put out there online, Darts Planet TV, the Darts Referee, various other people have made comments, various people. But you know what? I can't fault Dartwolf. A, for the support that he gave us during our world record attempt. B, the shout outs he gives us on social media and stuff. So I can't wait to see what his channel's going to be like. Can't wait to see the content. Really looking forward to seeing what he has to offer. Looking forward to seeing if he's got a different twist on things, if he's going to basically what he's going to do. I was also lucky enough to win a Double Trouble prize that kindly sponsored by sort of Dartwolf, and it's great actually to see both of those sort of in conjunction with each other. That's brilliant. I mean, we've had an affinity with sort of both of those people really, so that's fantastic. So I was lucky enough to be named as one of the winners of a Double Trouble set of tasting packs. So gin, vodka, and rum, I believe it was. So look forward to that. So wending its way over, but nothing but sort of good stuff to say about him, really.
Yeah, I'd also echo that as well, dude. To be honest with you, we can't praise this guy enough for what he did with our world record attempt, and we can't praise Double Trouble enough for what they did either. To be honest, to see those two guys, like you say, working together, I think is phenomenal, and I hope this isn't the last time they do that as well. So if you're listening, either of you guys, let's make it happen. I think it's phenomenal to see. And like Gaz said, we've no idea what the content's going to look like, but if it's anything like some of the promo adverts he's been sharing on Twitter, they've been fairly impressive, haven't they?
They have, and just whether or not it's some of the the way that, and obviously he asked them to do it this way, but the way that some of the people that they talk about him, the enthusiasm that seems to be surrounding the page, the channel, the content, just the way that it's been shot, it just real professional sort of looking promos, and I know it's difficult and stuff for some people, that they're starting out YouTube channels and podcasts and stuff, and budget isn't perhaps there for some people, but yeah, he's proper gone to town on it, and it's obviously a passion that he's got. It's obviously a massive passion that he has, and it's great that he's giving back again. It's great that he's back on the scene. It's great that he does seem to be giving genuine darts fans the opportunity to win prizes and to get involved in giveaways and stuff. So, nothing but admiration for what he's trying to do for the darts community. And I'll just add one other thing to what you've said there. Double Trouble Drinks and Dave and Scott, part of their philosophy is giving back to the community and charity and all of that, which we love, and which is why we've sort of jumped on the bandwagon to a very tiny, lesser degree in terms of trying to support them in what they're doing. And part of their mantra is give back. And obviously, Dartwolf, we've been the recipient of sort of firsthand his generosity. So, to see those two sort of match up and marry up, I'm genuinely excited to see what potential that could bring. And look, if it works, fantastic. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But I'm genuinely interested to see where that goes.
And while you're on about sort of marrying up with Double Trouble in charity fundraising, we've got something planned, which let's just pray COVID doesn't put pay to, because the thought of Andy dressed as a Viking, putting his maths at work after probably a few beers, a few whiskies, a few rums, a few vodkas, and a few gins.
It's a usual weekend.
Yes, that's it, yeah. That's just Tuesday morning.
Yeah, I hope what we have got planned. I hope people will enjoy it. It's a little bit tongue in cheek, obviously, but I hope that people will enjoy it. Obviously, we're not going to divulge too much information at this stage. I hope Scott and Dave, obviously, they're still mad keen for it. It will be good if we can get it off the ground and this bloody COVID thing doesn't ruin it. And yeah, sort of watch this space for further news.
100%. I mean, COVID has put pay to many of our ideas so far. Let's hope that this one is one that manages. We sort of planned it with it in mind, and then lockdowns and things happen. So let's just hope it's something that we can engineer before we head up to the darts in April or May next year for the Disability Darts World Cup, which is taking place. I forget where it is again, but it's somewhere near Edinburgh,
near
Glasgow.
Edinburgh.
Yeah, somewhere there.
Somewhere near there. I can't remember the name of the place. But
if you know Lewis Capaldi, that's where he's from. I'm not promising he's going to be there. He probably is not going to be there, but you never know. That's the town where he's from. That's the other thing that it's famous for. So then, we're going to be talking about Halloween tonight. So I'm intrigued to know what Halloween means to you, whether it's something you celebrate, whether it's something you're part of. Gaz, you sound like you have some news to share.
Whitburn.
Whitburn.
Is where Lewis Capaldi's from. Sorry. Thanks, Google.
Thank you, Google. That is the one. That is the one. That is where the darts is going to take place. So Halloween we're going to be talking about in this episode. What does it mean to you guys? Is it something you celebrate? Is it something you partake in? Do you do anything specific on that night of the year? Andy, we'll go to you first. Is it an important holiday for you?
I found memories of it growing up as a kid, obviously dressing up as like Frankenstein or whatever, going around trick-or-treating. It was dead good back in the day. I suppose I still following some sort of a tradition where I turn my lights off and pretend I'm not home when people knock on the door. But no, we do leave like treats out and stuff like that. It's not even kids and stuff. It's not. I'm not really interested, to be honest. With the estate we live on has we have a Facebook group, so everyone puts down like who's partaking in it. So they then print off a map, and then all the kids on the estate can go around all these different streets and see all the what do you call it, decorations and stuff. Like people have projectors on their houses and all sorts. It's pretty interesting to see, but yeah, it's not for me.
You won't be doing anything with your van and sticking Sophie in there or anything. I mean, Cerberus.
Excuse you. Yeah. maybe go away.
Okay. Gaza?
Similar to Andy, really. It's not something, even sort of growing up, I don't think it was anything really that we sort of massively celebrated as a family. I'm pretty sure we must have gone as a kid sort of trick-or-treating and stuff. And again, maybe Sid would recall more so than me, but I know that Jenny doesn't massively sort of celebrate it and stuff. And we were the same, we would. There's been times where it sounds really bar humbug now, but we perhaps wouldn't answer the door, or we plan maybe to go out for a meal, like me, Jenny, and sort of BC. Me and Jenny would just go out. Obviously, since we've had kids, we would possibly go out. I think over the last few years, I mean, obviously my kids are a bit older now, so I think Amy, obviously, she's doing GCSE, so she's too old for sort of trick or treating and stuff. But there was a time when they would go round sort of the estate, and they would go with a couple of friends and say, "Oh, can we go trick or treating and stuff?" And I was torn between it really. I'm not a massive believer in, so, you go to the door and the old, if you don't give me something, then you're gonna get a trick, and something. We're going to do something to you or whatever. And obviously, I know that tradition has been sort of watered down a little bit, but it sort of didn't sit well with me in terms of just going around and effectively sort of begging for sweets and stuff. Now, ironically, previous years we've moved on to the estate that obviously we now live on, and there's loads of young kids and stuff. So we will put out like a bowl of sweets and stuff for them. But yeah, it's not something that I get it, and I know that in America it's a huge thing, and obviously massive percentages of candy that's sold every year is literally sold for Halloween and stuff, and its costumes are bought and houses are decorated, but it's not something really that we've done as a family, not massively. What about you then, Andy? Do you?
Well, I've got very fond memories of it growing up, and I can remember, John and I going trick or treating when we were kids, and then obviously my youngest brother, he's 8 years younger than me, and I can remember taking him trick or treating as well, and very, very sort of fond memories of it. Yes, like I say, there is that view that it is a very Americanized holiday, although strangely enough, they didn't adopt the holiday till around about the 1920s. It was much more prevalent in Europe prior to that. But yeah, very much so. And I'll be honest with you, before we had kids, I was probably the same as you guys. I was a bit of a misery guts. Kim and I would go out to the pub and have a meal and come back once we thought all the kids were in bed.
Yeah.
I can remember one Halloween, and I know the wife will dig me in the ribs for sharing this story. So she was pregnant with Matilda at the time, and she said, this year we've got kids coming around. Let's make the most of it. Rather than going out to the pub and pretending they're not there, let's just stay in, get a whole load of sweets. Now, she was quite heavily pregnant at the time. So honestly, like, this first knock at the door was about 4:30, 5 o'clock, and it continued. I'm not kidding you. It must have been about 50 visits to the door. And by this time, she was emotionally fraught. We'd ordered the Dominoes. Every time there was a knock at the door, that was the Dominoes. It wasn't. It was another kid wanting stuff. And like, we'd done this bowl. We put all the different lights in it, and they kept trying to hit the bloody lights when we were offering the sweets to them. And she was getting, honestly, her emotions were just gone haywire. And then the Dominoes turned up, and they'd missed the rocket off the top of it, and gee whiz. I felt for that guy, because he got a level of pain he was not expecting on Halloween. He was expected to be troubled by kids, not a fully grown adult who just wanted some rocket on top of a pizza. Who has rocket on top of a pizza anyway? And anyway,
is it pineapple pizza?
There was no pineapple. There was no pineapple. If I was ordering it, it'd been fine. So anyway, she got straight on the phone to Domino's, and I'm telling you, we got a really good voucher out of those guys, because she was that emotional. Where, like, when she phoned up, it was, let's just give her what she wants. Give her what she wants, because we do not want to be part of this conversation. So yeah, and this is the interesting thing when you said this year, Gaz, you're thinking about sticking sweets outside your door. 2020, it's going to be a little bit different, because trick or treating is not something going from household to household. Unless you're dressed as a super spreader, it's not something you should really be doing, is it?
No, and it's strange because obviously I take Andy's point that you get on the Facebook group and it's like, right, which houses are going to partake and which, and we always used to say, the couple of years that our kids did trick or treat, it was always like, make sure that you go to a house that that has stuff. You don't want you knocking on the door of an elderly person or an elderly couple, and all of that sort of stuff. But it's weird because, like, once you have the reputation of that house gives you sweets, that's it. Literally, you could give like 2 kids like 2 sweets, and you can guarantee that for the next 3 hours, every fudging kid in the area came to your door. And as you said, Ad, it was literally like every 30 seconds, bing bong, and you're like, yeah, there you go. And then by halfway through the night, you'd run out of sweets, because the greedy little fudgers at the start, they just used to grab handfuls. It wasn't like just take one, it's like take one handful. Do you know what I mean? And I remember one year our kids came back, And the bag of stuff that they had was outrageous. And I mean, full on, massive bag full of just sweets. And you were like, really? And it must have taken them, and I'm not even going to say weeks, it's probably months to eat it all. Just the amount of stuff that they came back with was horrendous. So we sort of did it. And this year we were sort of thinking, because you can't get people knocking at your door, it's actually probably an ideal opportunity to leave a bowl outside, and people, if they want, and actually you don't need to be bothered about people banging on your door because of COVID. So, we probably will this year, but I think only because of that reason is that actually they don't have to then knock on your door. And I know that's a bit far humbug, but that's probably what I'll do.
Last year, because I'm a bargain shopper, last year we went around November 1st and I bought a load of cheap sweets that are Halloween themed to give away. And I think they're actually glow-in-the-dark lollies that were going to be sat outside. I bought a load of them, like they reduced from £2 down to 10p. I mean, I can't even imagine the E numbers in there. Like, I got them back, and Kim's like, you are not giving those to our children. They're going to be wired forever. So they're going to be sat outside of our door this time. But actually, that's a really good tip, because Halloween not really happening. If you're on a budget and you want this is a money saving tip. We don't often do these on Tall Boy Radio.
Tell you what, branching out now.
I tell you what, dude, this is a good one, because everywhere you go now, I mean, this cost me £8. This outfit that I'm wearing tonight, and it's pants and everything, and the rope actually quite useful if my car ever breaks down, so I can tow me with it. But a really good tip, because everybody's really reducing them to clear, because nobody can go trick or treating. So if you've got like a 3-year-old, just go out and buy like a load of costumes growing up through the years, because this stuff doesn't go out of fashion, does it? It's always mummies and vampires and stuff. Yeah. You can save yourself some money. Go, make some money off the retailers. They make enough off you over the years. That's my tip.
There you go. Always a thinker. You see, you listen to TBR and you get sound economic advice. You see, that's what we like.
First time for everything.
First and last.
If you're not watching the video on YouTube as well, Ad's wearing a sexy nurse's outfit.
That has just guaranteed that nobody will switch on to the YouTube videos.
You were meant to be encouraging numbers, Andy, not discouraging
Just on the subject of trick or treat, though, Andy, I've got to go back to this beer, because I'm telling you what, that is next level. Keep an eye out for that one. You'll enjoy this one, layer cake. It tastes. You can see the colours on it if you're on YouTube. It's pink marshmallow, and you can taste the pink marshmallow. Gee whiz. So, talking about trick or treating, then do we know? And I'm looking at you, Andy, then on this one. Do we know where that tradition comes from?
I did hear about it years ago. Wasn't it something like Eastern European or German? I can't remember what it was now. Wasn't it to get rid of monsters or something like that?
Well, that's Halloween itself. So we're looking at trick or treating. But you're right. In terms of Halloween, prior to it being a Christian festival, which was obviously the 1st of November, is All Saints' Day or All Hallows' Day. So All Hallows' Eve or Halloween is the day before the 31st. And obviously, when the Christians were pushing their religion out there, they used a lot of old dates, and they put their important festivals, including Christmas, on important dates from pagan festivals. But this one used to be a Celtic festival. Obviously, you being a little bit Celtic, I thought, what would go to you first? So Samhain is what it used to be. And you're quite right. Literally, it was bringing in the start of winter. So obviously the nights are drawing in, it's cold, the weather is turning, and you want to drive away the ghosts. So they would dress up in costumes and light fires and do ceremonies to scare away the ghosts. But trick-or-treating has its origin in sort of the Viking times, the Anglo-Saxons, such as yourself. Clearly, you're of that descent. And it comes from something. Have you ever heard of mumming?
No.
Mumming is something where literally, as opposed to going and doing trick or treat, you would go and perform a little skit at somebody's door, and they would give you just a little bit of candy, a little bit of, I don't know, root vegetables probably back in the day, to, just to thank you for what you were going to do. And that in time developed into sort of trick or treat because of the ghostly nature of Halloween. which I find quite interesting. When you think about obviously the history of that, and obviously America then obviously adopted that in 1920s, it was very much more what we're more familiar with today. But October the 30th, do you know what is celebrated on that night? It's related to Halloween. I've only ever come across it in one place in the country, but it is a common thing. Have you ever heard of, and I do my best Scouse accent here, Mizzy Night or Mischief Night? Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Yeah, I thought you might have heard of that one, Gaz.
No, I haven't heard of that.
You're originally from Liverpool, aren't you?
Well, yeah, with the Wirral, but and I haven't heard of that. I don't know what happened then. I haven't heard of that.
No. Well, Mischief Night is it's about 50% of trick or treat. Now, I used to manage a shop in a place called Murdershaw. Now, Murdershaw is not a place you want to be on Halloween. Yeah, exactly. Then murder it is.
Then murder it is.
Whoever came up with that name, I don't know, but gee whiz, it was deeply appropriate. And they used to do the night before Halloween. They did something called Mischief Night. So rather than trick or treat, they'd just go around and create chaos.
Wow.
Now, the original idea was, you go egg a few old folks and that kind of stuff. But these guys, they were tipping cars over, trashing cars, setting fire to cars. I remember one year we had a guy going around with a length of drain pipe on his shoulder, firing rockets at people from, firework rockets. And he was firing them into my shop. And it's like, wow, this is something else.
Wow.
So that's Mischief Night. So I'd be interested to know if any of our listeners out there have any memories of Mischief Night, if it's something you've come across, because it certainly isn't anything then that I've ever come across. So so like you guys, Andy asked earlier, didn't you? You were curious as to what this episode was going to be about. So one of the things I'll be interested to know, right? We're scaring away the bad spirits. I'd be interested to know then one of your biggest scares that you've had in your life. Let's keep it upbeat though, but something that scared the bejesus out of you. Is there anybody who wants to go first, or would you like me to share mine first?
Yeah, last. You go first, because I'm trying to. Yeah, you go first.
I can tell you the time I've been most scared in my life, and it was the most exhilarating. And by the end of the day, I would have happily repeated it. Going back to, I think it might have been 2012. I did a parachute jump for charity, and we went on it with a guy called Mark Thorley and another guy called Chris Farmer. Chris Farmer is a character. First time I'd ever met this guy, and honestly, literally, I love the guy, great guy, good friends with him now, but one of the mouthiest people I've ever met in my entire life. He was going on to people he'd never met before, like we were just about to do the parachute jump before us. Your stitching looks a bit loose. I think that strap's not tied in properly. You know what I mean? To guys who've never done a parachute jump before, it's like, wow. And I remember the guy saying to me and Mark, honestly, get him up there. He'll quieten it down. Don't worry about it, boys. So we were going up in the plane, and that has to be the most afraid I have been in my life. Not the jump itself, but just that flight up there. So
but I thought you'd piloted a plane, though. Was that not more scary?
No. Honestly, that is weird, because I didn't even feel like I was really moving anywhere. It was literally just floating. Again, that was somebody had bought a flying lesson for the kid, and the kid had sort of bottled it on the day, and so she said, "Do you want it?" I was like, "Yeah, go on then. Yeah, I'll take it." And it was really good fun. It's probably scarier for Kim because she was in the back of the seat.
Yeah, Adam's in control of this.
Yeah, no! Exactly. Yes, I hope she had a parachute on. But no, honestly, we were going up in the plane. I can remember Mark turning to me and saying, "Dude, you look so green right now." It's like, dude, if I'm green, I'm telling you now, you are white. And I've never seen anybody look white who was like a ghost. And it was that climb going up, because it felt like it took forever to get. I can't remember if it was 10 or 12,000 feet. It was basically, we were about 2 miles up. Now, we were attached to somebody, and to be honest, they had to find somebody pretty big to attach me to and do a tandem jump with.
So they found giant haystacks.
Basically, yeah. And the flight up there was far, far worse than the jump out of there, because that was exhilarating and it was absolutely fantastic. But this Chris Farmer guy, honestly, he was talking all the way up there, and literally got to the point where he's hanging over the end of the plane, and he was cheering like this, and then he absolutely loved it. I've never met anyone like him. But honestly, after he went, it was my turn to go next. And obviously, because I'm quite big, quite heavy, as we go out, the guy tumbles, he flicks his little chute out, But I did a forward roll because literally that's the way that momentum is taking me. So I remember tumbling down, and I remember falling and just thinking, this is incredible. Smelling and tasting the clouds and feeling the freshness as you fall through it. And then the only time I sort of felt fear on the way down is literally pull the chute. You got that stabbing sensation in your groin as the straps pull tight. Incredibly, incredibly painful. But it was just that fear just that lasted maybe 4 or 5 seconds that those straps are going to give away and you're going to plummet that last mile down by yourself. But once you settle down, floating down, incredibly relaxing. But the flight up there was awful. And if you'd asked me to repeat it while I was still up there, no way, I was never doing it. I didn't even want to do it while I was up there. That was it. The guy was sort of saying, no, we're up here now. You're doing it, sunshine. Forget it. This is for charity. You have to do this. So I did it. When I got down to the bottom, like this Chris Farley, let's do it again. I was like, yeah, let's do it again. That was amazing. Let's get it, let's pay for it. Let's do it again. We didn't. We went go-karting, but that's by the by.
Wow. Yeah, it's weird because there's nothing that springs to mind in terms of. I mean, I'm sure that there has been lots of times in the past where something's made you jump or something sort of spooked you and stuff, but I can't. Didn't know. Close. And I suppose, I think for me, one of the most frightening things is now you've got kids. I think it's the potential of what might happen, and in terms of. And I don't know whether I've said this before in a sort of previous episode or something, but if you go like climbing somewhere or there's, and Jenny will go, there's an edge sort of thing, and it's like actually sort of trying to get across to this like vantage point, lookout point, and actually there's basically, if you slip down the right hand side, and we were in one of the Greek islands somewhere, I think, and there were steps down and there was boats that you could get sort of trips out the island, but basically there's this like vantage point, lookout point, and it was pretty precarious sort of thing, and it's pretty slippy, this path was, and I got a bit of the way over and then thought, I'm not doing that, and so came back, and I suppose that was, I wasn't frightened in terms of frightened for me. I think I was frightened of the consequences for Jenny and the kids had something have happened to me, or if the kids then tried to follow me and one of them would have slipped off or whatever. So I think, other than when you were a kid, you used to crap yourself at Friday the 13th or whatever, there was a typical slasher movie, and when you were a kid watching it, sort of thing, oh my god, sort of thing. But in terms of being frightened, nothing massively springs to mind. Of the odd, I say you go to like old Tasdale Scare Fest here or there, and you got people that are sort of walking around and. There was one bit where we were at Thorpe Park, and I wasn't scared per se because I was able to rationalise it, but I know that Jenny and the kids were, and it was a Walking Dead ride basically. And you go on the Walking Dead ride, which is pretty cool, and then as you're getting off the ride, this big klaxon siren goes off, and it's like they've got in the compound, and literally all the lights shut off, and there's like flashing lights and stuff, and then they basically like herd you out, and then you go through this like tarpaulin sort of door. And they walk you into this room, and there's basically like live action actors there that made up as The Walking Dead, and they're like, sort of thing. And it was a bit like, holy shit, something, what's this? But I was able to rationalise thinking, we're in the middle of fucking Essex or wherever, I thought, Park, whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, this ain't. But for Jenny and Amy, it was literally like, see you later. It was like, women and children first, they're gone. I mean, they are out of here, sort of thing. And Abby, bless her, Abby was clinging to me, like desperately, like frightened. And there's like a walkway, and it's sort of, you walk down, and when you go like round a corner and then you walk down the other way, you basically zigzag down. Well, we'd walk past, and at the start of the ride, and you don't really remember it, at the start of the ride, it says there are live actors in this ride. They will touch you, but they won't hurt you. Please refrain from touching them. Basically, they don't want you to turn around and go like, right, you're having it, sunshine, sort of thing. And so we walked past this one, and don't get me wrong, the makeup, it's pretty black, but every now and then the spotlight coming on, the makeup was literally like a Walking Dead. It was like teeth all out and face half missing, and you're like, that's pretty cool. And we walked past this one, and Abby got a bloody head sort of buried into me, and I'm just walking sort of thing. And as we walked down this like zigzag, it basically leant over, and it just basically lunged and leant over and touched Abby's shoulder. Holy moly! She pooped it sort of thing, and she was like screaming and stuff. So I basically like half walked, half carried her, half ran out. And like looking around, like Jenny and Amy had already been out about 3 minutes. They'd like long gone, forget us two. That was it. They're gone. So that was like unnerving, just because you didn't really expect it. But I think that was more unnerving, obviously, because I had Abby, and it wasn't really for me. It was just like, if we were in there, it'd be like, oh, that's pretty cool. It's a bit unnerving. It's dark and there's flashing lights, and then you've got this guy's like, sort of thing. But it was just more unnerving. So I don't think it was like, I won't say scared or frightened, but more just, I suppose, a bit unnerved, just because I knew that Abby was absolutely petrified at the same time, if that makes sense. But it's a pretty cool experience. It's a pretty cool ride. If you go to Thorpe Park, it is pretty good.
It does sound pretty awesome, dude.
It does, yeah. It was pretty cool.
What about yourself, Andy?
I don't know why. Randomly, I just remembered my mum lived in this house in Stoke, and there's like an end of terraced house. They're weird, like small, like 18. I don't know how old it was. It must be like 100 years old, or whatever. And it was just moving to Brussels. So I lived with her for, I don't know how long it was, a month or so. And she moved out anyway. And she's like, "Oh, you need to go back and get a box or something like that." So I went back there. And the house is always cold. No matter like the heating was on or anything like that. There'd only be one room that was hot. All the rest are always cold. And they had like an extension out the back where the kitchen was, so then like a bathroom on the end of that extension sort of thing. So when I was there, I think like some of the bulbs had gone or something like that. And there's only me there at the time. It was pitch black. It's like 8:00 at night in winter sort of thing, and the house was ice cold. It's colder inside than it was outside. I remember walking in there. I just felt like someone stood there watching me. I was like, I got my phone out, like I used a torch on it. I was like, sure, no one's here. Like I checked all the doors, it's all locked and all that, so no one's broken in or anything. Like there's no homeless guy there. And I walked in, got my box. I was like, I need to go to the toilet. Went for the toilet and all that. And I see this like thud, 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 and I was like, what the hell's that? And I was like, it sounded like the stairs. So I like went around the house. I was like, nothing's there. It's like the one time I've just been like, that's the weirdest feeling I've ever had in my life. And I think the thudding was actually next door. I think they just got home and all that stuff. But it was the weirdest house I've ever been in. Like it was just ice cold, and it just felt like someone staring at you. Like never had it since.
Yeah, you didn't think to mention that in the parapsychology episode.
Nah.
That was exactly what I was going to say.
No. Two reasons. One, I just remembered it. And two, we had enough content for that. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Add
a couple more.
I mean, obviously, you throw into that, obviously, and I mentioned it in the parapsychology episode. Obviously, there was the waking dream nightmare, sort of seeing my mum type experience, and obviously, I spoke at length about that with the episode that Ken was on and stuff. So that wasn't frightening, but I suppose that was again a bit unnerving as such. But yeah, frightened. I don't know. I think I try and steer away from experiences that perhaps I know potentially might frighten me. So therefore, I just don't. I sort of don't put myself in those situations. I would love to do a parachute jump. I genuinely would actually quite like to do one.
It's funny actually, because as you started saying that then, and you're talking about your kids and what have you, and I actually thought, now if would I have to do it now? I probably wouldn't, to be honest with you, because like you say, because you got your kids and you got those to think about now. So just going back to Andy, to get to Gaz's Thorpe Park ride. Me and you, Andy, we've done Farmageddon a couple of times, haven't we? And that literally is a scare fest. If you're not familiar with it, it's a scare fest for adults where basically you walk through. You walk around a farm, and we'll share some pictures on social media of myself and Andy at this. And then there's people leaping out with chainsaws, not real ones, trying to scare you and startle you. Were you at all scared at any point there, Andy? Was anything, or was it just entertainment?
Well, considering we're our partners there squealing, it was hard to get scared of stuff. It's just too funny. But the makeup was pretty good on some of them. Like we got a picture of like bald guy and stuff, didn't we? The third Mitchell brother.
Was that not me?
In the mirror.
No, there was. Yeah, honestly, that one was really good. And actually, we booked to do one in the Trafford Centre as well. And you guys couldn't make it. And it was Amy's brother and his wife came along. And we went round with them instead. And I can remember there was a couple of Scouse girls in front of us. And the same sort of thing as Thorpe Park, Gaz, where they say, they're going to jump out, they're getting close to you, they won't touch you, you're not allowed to touch them. And this guy jumped out. And this girl... Honestly, she shit herself and just scolded this guy and threw him to the floor. Is she in on this? Honestly, she absolutely nailed this dude. He was down and down. We were out of there before he got back up again. I don't know if he was.
The thing is, though, I mean, anyway, you laugh, but it is that fight or flight.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Fight, flight, freeze sort of thing, innit? It's like, oh, right, okay, so, and I suppose your mind. In those situations, you don't perhaps have time to rationalise it. So literally, and I don't suppose you know how you're going to react until you are actually in that situation. You can turn around and go, oh, I'd leg it, but would you? Or would you just literally start swinging? Or you might turn around and go, oh no, I'll take him out. And it's like, well, would you? And I suppose you don't really know until you're sort of faced with it. I mean, going back to your scare Farmageddon thing, there was a thing in America, and it was. I can't for life remember where this hotel was, and you'd have to Google it. But they basically, you spend a night in this hotel, and you have to sign a waiver before you go in. You have to go through a medical before you go in, so they have to screen you for any heart complaints. And it basically it's billed as like the scariest hotel or whatever. And they will literally like drag you out in the middle of the night. They imitate slashing people's throats and bleeding them over a trough and on all sorts of stuff, and it's by all accounts it's horrendous, but they're booked up like months and months and months and months and months in advance, and you basically spend this night in this hotel, and I can't you'd have to Google it, but I can't for life remember what it's called, but they literally, it's like there's fake hangings, there's fake beheadings, there's also, and they literally, people come out and you have to sign this waiver effectively to say, well, we're not going to sue you if you ever become traumatized by anything that you see, sort of thing. It is weird. But
there's one in Blackpool where you go through a maze and you're chased around like by Jason and Freddy Krueger, everyone, and the last bit, like they do a trick with mirrors where you don't realise that the guy's particularly close and he runs at you. And then obviously you then charge backwards. My brother's done it, Spongo's done it. So you head out to this door, and as the door flicks open, you end up in a pub, and there's a bunch of people taking the piss out of you. Which, to be honest, does sound like quite good fun, especially if you've had a few beers. But real shame that this year, obviously, Farmageddon isn't going to be happening. But that is a pretty decent night, isn't it, Andy?
Yeah, definitely. I think there were kids there, wasn't it? But it's more... I can't really describe the ages, but it's quite a mixed one. There's a lot of adults and stuff and kids. And
yeah, it's definitely aimed for people older than our kids. I would say, Gaz, certainly mine who are 3 and 1. That'd be deeply inappropriate to take them there. So the other thing that I thought about as well, like, because obviously limited to what we can do on Halloween this year. What's that one film, that one TV show that you should be watching this Halloween that you really should be enjoying? Who wants to go first on this one?
I'll go first. Halloween.
You've
got to.
Do you enjoy that film?
It's not my favourite film, but just because it's Halloween and it's one of those that, growing up, you're like, oh, you're going to go and watch it. Okay, back in the day, Jamie Lee Curtis, you're like, okay, there's a bit of eye candy in there as well. That's okay. So, but I think just because it's called Halloween, you used to watch it around Halloween. It's that, and I think that spawned your Scream and your Freddy's and a lot of your other sort of slasher type movies, didn't it? So yeah, I think, is it the scariest film? No. Some bits are pretty sort of comical. They're meant to be quite sort of slasher, aren't they? But some of them are quite comical. But then, what's the bit? Is it towards the start where they open the door and then the guy sort of swings down or something? You're just like, come on, sort of thing. But for me, you've got to watch it just because it's Halloween and film is Halloween, and it spawned that whole sort of generation of those type of films, I think. So,
you know me, I love my horror films and I love slash films. You know, I'm a big fan of the Friday the 13th franchise. You know, I'm a big fan of Freddy Krueger as well. But I don't know, Halloween, despite the fact I love that genre of films, I don't know, I never really got the character of Michael Myers. And certainly, you know, no disrespect to Rob Zombie, when he makes of that, I never really bought into those either, to be honest with you.
did you see was it the 20? Was it the remake? Was it 2018 or something like that? Was it when did they do the? They did like a remake of it.
I've done quite a few of them, haven't they? To be honest, it was the same with the remake of the Friday the 13th film that they did on there maybe probably 8-9 years ago now.
Yeah.
But I thought with that one was disappointing as well. Just to get Kane Hodder in it. Let's just, you know, or Richard Brooker.
I mean, the first Scream was, and I know it was a little bit tongue in cheek as stuff, and it was a horror comedy, possibly type. But you know that film was pretty decent, to be fair. You know that there's a couple of bits in there that you're like, oh God, I wasn't expecting that, and they made you sort of jump a little bit, didn't they? You know what I mean? But
it's a good film, and it makes fun of itself as well, which I quite liked. But no, I think Scream's far better film than Halloween.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's just I think for me the fact that it's Halloween, and you know, growing up it was one of the films that growing up you were like, oh my God, have you seen Halloween? Have you seen Halloween? It's like, no, you've got to watch it on Halloween, sort of thing. So for me, it's just probably obviously because of the connection with the name, but for me, it's just that's the film that you watch around Halloween. You know what I mean? There's probably others. I mean, you could go down. Was it like Beetlejuice? You could go down. You know that's a Halloween film sort of thing. You know, there's been loads, but yeah, Halloween probably for me, just because it's not the best film, but you've got to watch it just because of the time of the year.
What about yourself, Andy?
I was thinking then of like the original Friday the 13th or Candyman. Yeah. But then when I actually think back to what films I do actually watch on Halloween, it's Ghostbusters. Classic.
I can't fault you on that one, dude. I cannot fault you on that. Great film. Not especially scary, but
no. Well, it's a bit weird. Is it the second one where the Marshmallow Man's in it? Or was that the first?
That's the first one.
That's the first one.
But it's the guy in the painting as well.
Yeah. Pete Venkman or whatever. Does he turn around and says, "Oh, basically whatever it is that you think of will destroy," and next minute you've got this like 40-foot Mr. Marshmallow Man. He's like, I can't help it. It just popped in there, sort of thing.
What was the? I remember it must have been early on in our friendship when we came around your house and we watched the film. Is it Up in the Attic or something like that? Or
I can't remember.
It was like Stranger in the Attic, and it was like this some like dorm. Well, it's supposed to be a scary film.
Oh yes, yeah.
Group of people lived in a house, and some guys just in the attic staring at them and killing them one by one.
Was it Black Christmas or something like that? There's a dude in it. I
suppose you've got things like Paranormal Activity. Was it? So the first one, which and that I suppose goes. It's not your traditional slasher movie, is it? But it's more of your poltergeist, spooky sort of film type thing. I mean, you could go down it. I mean, the first Hills Have Eyes film is
the original remake. Sorry.
Well, I would say the original, but the remake is still pretty gnarly, and there's bits in there that you're like, and just the thought of, you know, that whole. Not even a race of people as such, but you know, that being confined and being trapped and not being able to escape and stuff and being hunted and stuff, and so that there's bits in there that's a bit gnarly.
There's a couple of things on TV at the moment which are probably worth a watch as well. Gaz, I don't know if you've been watching it, Andy. Have you been watching Lovecraft? Try and say it. Lovecraft Country. Have you been watching that on Sky? No. Gaz, you're a fan of H.P. Lovecraft.
Love H.P. Lovecraft.
What did you make of that? Because obviously the finale was on earlier this week or last week, because obviously we're recording this a week early. What did you make of it?
Mixed, I think. When it when you first told me about it, because I think you'd watched the first episode and you were like, were we away? And I think I might have seen it, and then I might have tweeted you, and you were like, oh yeah, I've watched the first one, it's mint sort of thing. And then I started watching it, and I loved it. The first 3, 4, 5 episodes, thought this is going to be, and I love the genre. You know me, I'm a massive Lovecraft fan. I love the mythos genre. I love the fact that there was a lodge. It reminded me of the Hermetic Order sort of lodge and stuff. I loved that, loved it, and loved the fact that I felt as though they were staying quite true to Lovecraftian culture and literature and stuff. And then it just sort of petered out for me. It just went a bit like, yeah. I'll be honest, I haven't seen the series finale, so I haven't seen that. I think overall I've been left a little bit underwhelmed. Whereas for the first 3, 4, 5 episodes, I was like, I'm into it. Was it episode 2 or whatever it was, where they first go into the trees, into the woods and stuff, and they get the beasts that attack them in the car and stuff, and in the shed. And I thought, wow, this is going to be like mint. This is going to be ace. And then loved the lodge, loved the old cars, and loved the characters. But overall, I think just a bit underwhelmed. What about you? Did you enjoy it? Did you?
Same as yourself, to be honest with you. I thought it set it up beautifully, and then it got to around about episode 6 or 7, and there was the episode where they were set. I forget which war it was, but it's certainly they're set in the East, and it was like, wow, what's this now? Why are they bringing this in? Yes, they sort of filtered it back in, but I hate it when they do that in TV series. They just dedicate a whole episode to something you ain't got a clue what's going on, and then bring it back. I just find it really, really annoying. But yeah, if you're underwhelmed with the episodes up until now, prepare to be even more so by the final. Really disappointing. I found myself going, I've lost interest in the end, to be honest with you. I actually towards the end of it, I was designing TBR's Christmas card. Probably won't get used, but it was.
To be fair, it was a shame, just because I love Lovecraft, and I love the whole genre, and I don't really think there's been a decent film. Reanimated back in the day, was based on sort of Lovecraftian sort of stuff?
Stuart Gordon. She loved her friend, God rest his soul, but yeah, he did a very
So Reanimator was decent back in the day. I can't think of many sort of, I say, high budget, typical Hollywood films to do with Lovecraft.
The one thing actually I thought you'd mention, and you mentioned it a little bit earlier with the ride. Andy, you a fan of Walking Dead?
I've not really watched it, to be honest, which I like that sort of thing, and it does appeal to me, but it's not got around to watching any of it yet.
I thought the earlier seasons are brilliant. It got to the point where they're searching for the cure for the zombie apocalypse. Really enjoyed that. They're heading for CCDC or whatever it was, the
CDC, Centre for Disease Control.
Yeah, that's it. CCDC is Clark County Correctional Facility, whatever it is. That's the jail in Las Vegas.
They're not going there.
No. I to be avoided at any time. But yeah, so. I actually thought really, really good series. But the other one I'm going to chuck out there, which is well worth a watch, and if you've not watched it, you absolutely should. Gaz, I know you have. Stranger Things. That is a great watch. Stick that on. You could get through a whole series of that, I think. First series, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
I thought it was good, but it didn't blow my mind. But
what?
I'm a geek, aren't I? So I loved it. I thought it was brilliant, and I arrived to the Stranger Things scene a little late, I think, because everyone was like banging on about it, and I hadn't seen it, and I thought, I'm going to have to watch it, and then I was like, you've got to watch it, and I watched it. I was like, this is mint, like just literally from start to finish, and I could have watched it. And it's something that Jenny started watching. She's not really into that sort of sci-fi occult sort of genre, but she watched it. She loved it. She enjoyed it as well. but I could have watched it like back to back to back to back. You know what I mean? Episode after episode. Hopper's just mint, by the way.
Brilliant.
That guy is mint.
And they got a new season for next year.
Next year now, yeah. I think it's scheduled for September next year, which is too
September.
long to have to wait. I think it's September, yeah, next year because of COVID.
Well, no, I know. Obviously, the back end of the last series, Hopper sort of went missing. Is he dead? Is he not dead? They sort of, and then obviously the trailer for the new one, you just see him in this like sort of is in like this chain gang sort of prison in deepest darkest wherever, and he just looks around and you're like, go on, Hopper lad. You know what I mean? It's just like can't wait for that. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed the Stranger Things, and I'd love for there to be a sort of Hollywood blockbuster type film to do with the occult, or particularly Lovecraftian occult. Because, as I said, I don't think there has been really, and I think it's such a shame because I love it. But yeah, I think going back to what you're saying, Lovecraft Country, just a bit underwhelmed, if I'm honest, which is a shame.
I was disappointed. Now, I got a message off one of our listeners, who also happens to be my brother, about a film. He said if we were going to do a Halloween episode, which we are doing now, a film called Red Shift that we should be talking about from 1979. Is it one you're familiar with?
I'm not.
No.
I'm not. No, but I'm about to have a look.
Have a look because it was filmed at Mount Cop. And it was filmed at St. Bertoline's Church in Bartomley, which are all within about 3 miles from where we live. I've never heard of it, so I looked it up. Hopefully, I'll be watching that one on Halloween because my brother said he was going to order it, so I'll hopefully twist his arm to borrow it. But I'd be interested to hear from any of our listeners if they've ever seen the film Red Shift. Never heard of it. Filmed in 1979.
British film? No, I've never seen it.
Can you imagine that, though? A film that's filmed around... It's basically a guy who is travelling through past life regressions and ends up fighting some war outside of Mount Cop. I think you're expected to ignore the fact that Mount Cop is, in fact, a folly and is actually built so some rich dude could have a picnic in front of it when he was having his salmon sandwiches or whatever he was having back in the day.
I just read then it's a novel. It was a series of novels set in Alderley Edge.
Oh, yeah, Alan Garner, yeah.
Correct. Yeah, it was written about. The book is sort of set slightly elsewhere, but filmed at Mount Cop, which, funnily enough, I've been to today. So again, whenever we do a podcast, I always take it on to another level as well. So if we had unlimited resources or unlimited time, or basically just not being affected by COVID. For me, one of the things that we haven't talked about Halloween, it's key, and it's when you start thinking about witchcraft, whether that's the white witches or you're talking about the voodoo, which is synonymous with New Orleans. I'm fascinated by that. It's been brought to the forefront again when Netflix made Sabrina the Teenage Witch, obviously we remember from back in the day, Melissa Joan Hart. But you see a lot of books now with Wiccan lore in it. Is that something that's interested you guys?
Not Wicca. I mean, when we were, I suppose, growing up, there was a little bit of interest, and you heard some sort of kids talking about Wicca. I think for me, the thing that interests me more is sort of Salem and the witches of surrounding sort of Salem, and obviously that's synonymous with witchcraft and legend and this, that, and the other. And I know me and Ad and one of our other geeky mates sort of have chatted about sort of Salem and the witches of Salem before. So it's weird because you think of the film. Was it David Soul, the film? So Salem's Lot.
Salem's Lot, yeah. Which
is decent again. But the story of Salem and the witches and the coven of witches and all of that, I think that that piques my interest a little bit.
Well, funny you should say that, because obviously at the same time that was going on in Massachusetts, we had a case going through the law courts in York and in Lancaster, which was the Pendle witches. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
I've heard of them, or them.
The Pendle witches were 12 witches, and they were tried at the assizes in Lancaster in 1612, and it was 9 women, 2 men. Well, actually, it was 10 women and 2 men. Sorry, one passed away whilst he was in prison. I would be interested. We visited, actually, last episode, we did school days, and we visited Pendle Hill when I was in primary school, and I fell in a reservoir and had to sit in my soaking wet clothes on the bus on the way home. But yeah, I know we've talked about Derek Okora and our friend who lives down the road who used to be in Blue Peter, whose name I've just forgotten. What is it?
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, so Most Haunted. They've done episodes as well on Pendle Hill. I would be fascinated to go there and visit there and just see what, especially if we can look at sort of Wiccan lore as well. Is that something that you guys would be up for investigating? I mean, Ken's not on this episode. Pretty sure we could twist his arm.
Yvette Fielding,
yes.
A few years back, I did that Pendle Witch Trail. You can there's all little. Well, we never really noticed it, but there's all stones and stuff like that along it. But I did my high school in Lancaster. And you can do a tour of the castle and the prison and stuff like that. And they tell you about. I never done the tour for enough, but they tell you about they used to hang witches and stuff off the walls basically and stuff like that. And they do tours around the city at night, ghost trails and stuff like that.
You see, it'd be interesting because I'd quite like to do. You could do York, you could do Edinburgh, London. Pick your big cities, but I suppose York, Edinburgh, London are the main ones really. It's almost do a ghost tour, but not do a ghost tour just for the everyday punter. What I'd quite like to do is to dig a bit deeper. Do you know what I mean? Because we have a bit of an interest in it anyway. So it's not just your typical, here was where they were hung or whatever, but actually get shown the sites that maybe Joe Public wouldn't normally get. Does that, off the beaten track, trying to find a bit more of the undiscovered stuff. That for me would be more interesting.
Edinburgh would be a good place to do that because, like you say, York, they do some fantastic ghost stories and ghost walks there. We've done some around there. But the thing about Edinburgh, the city, is much of the new city is built on top of the old one. So there are a lot of underground. Some guy who was working in his cellar, he discovered basically, he was knocking his wall through and discovered basically a walkway behind. And actually, it's a huge set of interconnecting tunnels around there, which is quite Lovecraftian in what it is. And you can go down on those on your ghost walks. And Kim and I have done it. And to be fair, I think if you could spend some time down there, that would be quite an interesting place. If you take the recording equipment down there to host a podcast and just to look at those sort of things.
A few glasses of double trouble whiskey as well.
Oh, 100%.
I think, it's obviously going to have to be the post-COVID, and I know we mentioned about perhaps going into Macclesfield and going to the hotel. Old Hall in Sandbach, that was it.
We are going to do those episodes. We talked about the frustrations of COVID and what it's stopping us from doing. But yeah, we are definitely going to, I can't wait to take this out and about where we're not doing this socially distanced and just to do investigate a few of those things.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
The Old Hall needs doing. We've got a few trips up to Scotland planned. I just wonder if that's something we could. Well, you could certainly
add that on if you're going to do your disability darts, whatever. There's no reason why you couldn't. If you stay in and around Edinburgh, there's no reason why you couldn't go in there for one evening and do that, for example, and just bolt that on. Do you know what I mean? That you could do that because we have got one or two. Well, certainly you guys have got one or two. Well, we've got one or two trips sort of planned up there, haven't we? So it's something that we could do. I mean, the other thing is, do you find some sort of Celtic pagan ground somewhere, and do you try and do something from there? You know, obviously it's a bit late to do Halloween this year, but you know, down the line, do you look to do something from some sort of site, pagan site, Celtic site, whatever that may be down the line? I don't know. There's lots of things that we can talk about doing, but obviously it's just COVID-wise, we've just got to make sure that everything is all okay. And obviously we're looking at 2021 now, aren't we? Really,
realistically, unfortunately, yeah.
But I mean, obviously the Halloween. This is going to be released to Halloween sort of thing. This is a Halloween special. I'd be interested to see, and Bo, if you're listening, or Tiddy and Shiner, you know, if you're listening, obviously you guys over in America, if there's any other listeners in any other countries, you know, what does Halloween mean to you? And was there a tradition? Was it in? Was it like Germany? And what used to happen was I can't remember the name of the monster, but they had a you know, a bit like the old witch doctor with a very pointy nose and stuff, and they used to come around and they used to basically snatch kids. That was the was it Halloween, or was it Christmas? Can't remember, but there was a tradition. I might be mixing my traditions now, and there's basically it might be more of a Christmas thing, and it was like, have you been a good kid? And if you haven't, these things would come and sort of basically, like in old folklore, they come and sort of snatch you and take you away, and it's like, oh Christ! And is it Grampus? Is it
Grampus? Yeah.
Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
Was it? That's more of a Christmas thing, though, is it?
Yeah, that's Christmas. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I apologise then. So I'm mixing me sort of me festivals and such. But yeah, so that it would be quite interesting to hear anybody from Europe in terms of Halloween, or America. What does it mean to? Because we're just three guys in the UK talking about what it means to us, aren't we? But obviously, we're listened to in 17, 18, 21, 22
21, yeah.
21. It would be great if somebody is willing to even just drop us a 5-minute sort of voice message just to say what it means to them, and we can obviously play it and stuff. So that'd be cool. Tiddy, Shiner, get on it, drop us a voice message. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you guys do. Tell us what you do to celebrate Halloween, if anything.
That could be a scary.
Tiddy was it Tiddy or was it Shiny got very philosophical? He tweeted something earlier. What was it? Was it early on today? Yesterday? Very philosophical.
Shiner always does that. You know,
was it Shiner? Was it Shiner?
Yeah, he shared that one on Twitter. But yeah, if you follow Shiner, follow him on Instagram, which I think is Hellraiser46, and he shares different quotes every single morning. He shares a picture of himself and some quote of the thought that's going through his mind. Well worth a follow and very, very interesting. So that brings us neatly then towards the end of this episode. Do we want to say goodbyes? And just one final thought from you guys then.
Yeah, I've enjoyed this one. Strange the way that the conversation went. We sort of talking about Halloween to start with, and then films and various other things throughout. So enjoyed it. Enjoyed listening to you guys again. Final thought for me: Halloween, not something that I massively sort of celebrated and stuff growing up. Not something that we massively celebrate, but I sort of get why people can get sort of hooked in and fished into the old sort of merchandise and stuff. So, but 100% look forward to a Halloween episode 2 or 3 and where this goes in terms of post-COVID and what we can do sort of post-COVID. So yeah, I'll leave you with that thought, guys. Been brilliant, and chat to you soon.
Cheers, dude. Andy?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I was just trying to think of what to say. I would say go and look at all the old films, you know, like the old black and white ones, like by Hitchcock or someone like that, or like the early Dawn of the Dead's, Day of the Dead's, Night of the Dead's, and all that sort of stuff, and just I don't know, reminisce about the old, or just enjoy the old style films. And they're quite different from horror films nowadays, aren't they? Where they're less CGI and more like special effects and stuff. So yeah,
100%. I think there was a film going back to, I can't remember, I think it's about 1932, maybe even slightly earlier. Nosferatu. It was Max Schreck as the vampire. Well worth a watch. German film, fantastic. Just quite sinister in the way that it was filmed, and it was the way that it's filmed that makes it more interesting because of the techniques that they used. So for me, I would echo what both these guys have said, but definitely post-COVID, I'll be interested to see what we do next with a Halloween special, because I'd like to do this every year. Do something different about Halloween and hopefully go to different locations, whether that is Farmageddon, whether that's Edinburgh, and do those things. I think that would be fantastic.
We could be trick-or-treating to your door.
It could be, yeah. Don't go to Gaz's because he won't be in.
No, I won't be in. We'll be out having a meal somewhere. We don't do trick-or-treating.
Yeah. So until next time, when no doubt we'll have plenty more stuff to talk about. Take care.